At the end of the last year, the Genocide and Resistance Research Center of Lithuania published a Lithuanian translation of a book by Lauri Malkso entitled Illegal Annexation and State Continuity, the Case of Incorporation of the Baltic States by the USSR. We are delighted to have the author of the book with us today. I want to introduce our guest. Lauri Malkso is a professor of international law at the University of Tartu in Estonia and a member of Estonian Academy of Sciences and Institute of International Law. He is an author of multiple books and articles, and we are here today to discuss one of them. Dear Professor, thank you for joining us today. Against the background of events in Ukraine, we hear more and more about the violations of international order, breaching of international law. The Hague Tribunal are looking for analogies in history. And of course, we remember almost 50 years of occupation of the Baltic States and the reaction of the free world to the brutal act performed by the USSR. And I would like to start our conversation with a general information for our viewers. Not everyone is familiar what is international law, how does it differ from the national law, what are the instruments for implementing international law rules. Maybe you could tell us briefly about the history of the formation of international law. It seems that some issues that today are considered a little bit differently as it was in the earlier period. So
yes, hello also from me to everyone. Thank you for listening to us today. It's a tall order to explain the differences of international law, the peculiar features as a starter, but let me just say this, that international law, unlike domestic law, is primarily a legal system between states. And the main sources of international law are treaty and customary law. So a legal obligation can sometimes arise also through behavior, not only through a written treaty. And its specific feature compared to domestic law is, of course, that it is a so-called decentralized system that you don't have in international law sanctioned in the same way as in domestic law, when I don't know, if we don't pay our debt or we commit a crime or something, then at some point the state will show up with its implementation, enforcement mechanism. And in international law, yes, we have UN Security Council, but then you have this question, but who applies international law towards the permanent members of the UN Security Council who have the veto power? Now, how international law how long it has existed, it is something that historians of international law can debate about, because it depends a little bit on what more specifically is your definition of international law. The features of this have also, changed over time, or what is a state, for example, has changed over time. In Europe, there's a tradition to trace the more modern type of international law to 15th, 16th, 17th centuries. It was, for example, used when Europe discovered, so to speak, and colonized the world. The tools of international law were used for the allocation of sovereignty and so on and so forth. And you are absolutely right that certain features of international law have definitely changed over time. So we have to also follow the rule that when we are talking about certain event in history, then we have to see what was international law like at that time. And the story that I tell in this book is a classic, is a good example, because early 20th century we don't have the rule in international law that would basically prohibit to start a war. And this rule emerges in 1928 when the Kellogg-Briand Pact was adopted, and afterwards led to the adoption of the United Nations Charter in 1945, and the story of the annexation, of the illegal annexation of the Baltic States was a sort of accompanying story to this development.
Okay, if we are returning to your book, I would like to ask, how would you describe the legal framework of international law in 1940? What documents and norms of international law did USSR violate? And the second part of my question would be about documents of international law, geopolitical processes, standards of international law. What of them let the idea of Baltic statehood stay afloat?
Well, here we can talk about two kinds of international law. You have the, let's say, general international law, which was adopted by basically all or most existing countries at that time. And once again, there the revolutionary important act was the adoption of the Kellogg-Briand Pact in 1928. So it was initially, the Soviet Union was not part of this act, but it was basically soon after it was adopted through the so-called Litvinov Protocol. The Soviet Union took upon itself the same obligations with respect to its neighboring states. And the Soviet Union in the 1930s is an interesting case in international law because it basically tries to make the point that it is even more progressive than the Western world. So to address the security concerns of the Soviet neighbor states, the Soviet proposed a convention for the definition of aggression, which was then adopted in London in 1933 at the initiative of the Soviet Union, and it gives a very broad, definition of aggression, covering a number of issues, including what happened with the Baltic states in 1940. And in addition to that, there were, of course, bilateral treaties between the Soviet Union and its neighbors, the so-called non-aggression pacts, but also starting really with the peace treaties of 1920. Let's not forget that the peace treaties that Soviet Russia concluded with the three Baltic republics, they were including in their Articles 2, respectively, the sort of recognition forever. Like this was for all future time. This was not meant to be temporary. So all of those, or at least most of those treaties, either multilateral or bilateral, were then violated in 1940 in particular. Now, what keeps the idea of the Baltic statehood alive during this period is really this uncomfortable sense that, well, actually, if the international community, the countries that won World War II, they defined the standards of behavior, for example, at Nuremberg trials. And they said that this violating that kind of behavior is really international crime, basically. Then the Baltic states and the exile Baltic representatives, that they made quite convincingly the case that, but wait a second, this what happened to us in 1940, how does that really differ from what was condemned, for example, at Nuremberg trials? So there was definitely also this analogy, because at Nuremberg, the Anschluss of Austria or the takeover of Czechoslovakia in 1939, no shots were fired there, really, but it was they were nevertheless called aggression. And in the case of the Baltic states, because of these very generous Soviet treaties, it would have been even more aggression if the Soviet Union, took its treaties seriously. But of course, instead, it was saying that, well, either challenging the facts, certain things didn't happen, or then having a completely different interpretation afterwards. And of course, there are people who think that in the end, keeping alive the Baltic statehood through concepts of international law, such as state continuity, had an obvious Cold War or geopolitical dimension. So after the former allies, they were no longer friends, and the Cold War broke out. So it was kind of useful tool for the United States, for example, to really challenge the territorial possessions of the Soviet Union. So obviously, this is another example in which how norms and ideas of international law they always operate in the context of power politics, and of course, certain ideas gain support when they gain more support when there is a political benefit from them.
Oh, thank you. And I would like to ask, in the context of international law, what makes the case of the Baltic states in the period you are analyzing in your book interesting and for practitioners and law sciences?
I think I can answer that even from human perspective. What makes it interesting is that many declare them kind of dead. They think that they're, so to speak, joining the Soviet Union. There's no other way for them. This is not possible also after the losses in population, after many people, becoming refugees in the West, after the demographic changes that the Soviet power undertakes in the Baltic states during the Soviet period. And yet, in the end of 1980s in the Baltic states, this idea of restoration of those pre-World War II states as subject of international law, it comes up very strongly, and then it actually happens. So what is very fascinating from human perspective is that an idea is basically suppressed for about 45 years, and then it still, if circumstances change in a quite powerful way, it finds expression in the restoration of the Baltic states based on those ideas. So this in itself makes it interesting for those different disciplines that you called it, that you mentioned. For example, to what extent is restoration of previous legal relations possible after 45 or so years? Or what should we call those years that happened in between, the years of, from international law perspective, illegality, when of course changes happen. There is a certain Sovietization takes place in those Baltic republics. How do we deal with that? How do we call that? I think these questions continue to preoccupy our states and our societies, sometimes in ways that we are maybe not actively aware of, but they have their roots in this period. And there is a question of, there are fundamental questions about international law. Is international law for everyone? Does it protect small states in the same way as it protects great powers? Can you end up being, as a state, part of a collateral damage when new major settlements are made, like in 1945, for example, at Yalta, and subsequently, one of the questions historians debate is to what extent the US and the UK, kind of did not protest against the Soviet, let's say, reconquest of the Baltic states in the fall of 1944, considering it kind of inevitable and something to be dealt with later, not to give it full recognition, but then, you know, in private conversations to tell to Stalin that, you know, you do what you need to do. So it is, and for international law, really the fascinating aspect is that what is also discussed in the book, the precedent value. It's like, is it a very unique case? Because in some ways, you know, restoring your statehood based on state identity after more than 40 years is clearly unique. We don't have, you know, that many cases like that, but it is less unique when we say that the Baltic case is mostly about basically non-recognition of illegally created situations. And then when that is your definition, then you have a lot of more of these kind of situations in contemporary world. And in that case, you know, the Baltic states can serve as inspiration, as example also for other situations of illegality.
Your book is an example of exact usage of the terms such as aggression, occupation, annexation, state continuity, and identity. How does international law define these terms? Because in general public, we probably sometimes are mixing them and we don't know the exact definition. And what consequences might the definition imply?
Yes, it is true that the book tries to sort of create an understanding of those, in a way, foundational concepts that concern the fate of the Baltic states in the 20th century, the concepts that are often used in our media by our politicians. But it is true that there is sometimes an element of confusion about the exact contours of these concepts. So part of my own intellectual curiosity with this project years ago was also to create more intellectual clarity about what do those concepts mean. And you have immediately this question, for example, of the difference between occupation and annexation. Mm-hmm. Like when you say that something is annexation, do you with that already recognize that, you know, the incorporation took place, nothing can be done about it? I solved it by calling the book illegal annexation, because I think we cannot deny that annexation happened already in August 1940. The previous Baltic republics, they were made somehow de facto at least part of the Soviet Union. So in that sense, they were annexed. But I also try to explain how, because of this illegality of this annexation, the basic rules of occupation as they existed in international law, the ways, for example, civilian population was protected by those rules, they you know, they did not get out of force. They continued to apply. Or another pair of concepts, state identity and state continuity. So continuity is the same thing, but the kind of applied to time dynamically is well, one of the questions that was asked in 1991 was that, okay, so the Baltic states, they preserved their state identity. They are now the same states as before World War II, but does that automatically imply that they maintain the statehood continuously? Can we say that the Baltic states existed in 1950 or in 1975, or is this some sort of legal fiction? Maybe one can accept that there is state identity, but no state continuity. So I looked into those concepts, how they had been used previously. And finally, even there is a certain debate regarding the concepts of state continuity and state succession. So, for example, in Russia in 2020, they had constitutional amendments to the Constitution of 1993. And in one article, they speak about both state continuity and state succession with respect to the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. And that is confusing because in international legal theory, in international legal literature, these two are a bit like opposites. They are either you maintain state continuity or a new state emerged and then state succession was created. In any case, who wants to understand the history of those concepts, what has been meant by all those concepts in international law and international practice of the 20th century, then my book is one place to sort of study the uses of those concepts.
Can we talk about one more term you use in your book? It's prescription or time factor. What corrections were made to the case of the Baltic statehood within these almost 50 years of prolonged occupation? So could you elaborate a little bit on this?
Well, there were no changes were made to the core idea of these states being able to restore their statehood. But when the three states re-emerge, they, in all aspects, in all details, they are not copies of the states in 1940. If we already start constitutionally, then Latvia is the only one of the three that sort of reapplies the constitution from the pre-World War II era, and Lithuania and Estonia, they of course adopt new constitutions after the restoration of independence. Well, I would say in the end there is no prescription because the Baltic states managed to get restored. Mm-hmm. The main idea of the prescription is that the time is so long that somehow the previous sovereignty, it goes away, it disappears. And I think the core of the Baltic case is that, this doesn't happen. Because even though there are all those, repressions, as they were called, and crimes against humanity, so on and so forth, destruction of elites, there is a restoration of those states, and the international community in its majority kind of endorses that. So in that sense, prescription doesn't take place. There are certain differences, certain changes. So de facto, Vilnius is not, controlled by Lithuania before 1940. And this, in an interesting twist, the restored Lithuania will have Vilnius. Estonia and Latvia will lose pieces of their territory in the eastern part of their countries. There are changes in population. The demographic composition of particularly Latvia and Estonia, a little bit less in Lithuania, is quite different. But obviously it's very different in Lithuania as well, because the country, for instance, loses its pre-war to Jewish population in the process, so to speak, in the Holocaust. These changes do not, indeed, as I said, they do not affect the idea that status as such, the statehood as such, gets restored. So in that sense, almost 50 years is not enough to execute prescription.
Okay, thank you. Your book talks about Baltic states, and you use this term. And I would like to ask, are the cases of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania identical, or do you see some crucial differences in that period you are analyzing?
I think in that period, there are no, huge crucial differences, really. there are differences if you go further back in the history, because in some ways we could say that Lithuania as a country is older than Estonia and Latvia. There are no countries called Estonia and Latvia before 1918, whereas Lithuania, as part of the Commonwealth, really exists and is a powerful country during the Middle Ages already. And but that does not mean that Estonia and Latvia are some sort of no man's lands in terms of Middle Ages. Really, you have those kind of German crusader states in the medieval, what was called Livonia, the old, what is nowadays Latvia and Estonia. So they had their sort of independence. But they were not called Estonia and Latvia, but somehow the main idea that it was neither part of Russia nor of Germany, but something of its own, of a certain independence that was already lived out during the Middle Ages on the territories of Estonia and Latvia as well, with those crusader states. But as far as the 20th century is concerned, the histories of those countries, they really run in parallel. They break away from the Russian Empire at the same time. They enjoy their interwar independence. It is true that Lithuania has particular problems, unsolved problems during that time with Poland concerning the territorial delimitation, and Estonia and Latvia didn't have that kind of problem at that time. But in international law, the main, at least from the perspective of this book, the main story is this relationship with former imperial center, with Russia, the Soviet Union. And from that perspective, this question of Vilna is a sort of side story. It's because the Soviet Union wants Lithuania back, with or without Vilnius, right? So, and which they do then in 1939, 1940.
Your book is addressed to the Baltic states, and their fate has been and continues to be radically affected by Russia. We all know that our great neighbor interprets both bilateral agreements and rules of international law a little bit differently. Could you briefly tell us the position of Soviet Union or Russia concerning the statehood, occupation and annexation of the Baltic states?
Well, I think the brief story is that they try to create a sort of parallel narrative, parallel reality with, socialist revolutions and somehow, I don't know, the presidents agreeing to certain changes in the constitutional structure. And the Baltic case was not the only one where they used this kind of parallel narrative. Remember that the Soviet Union says that it is Finland that attacks the Soviet Union in 1939. So they, from the Western perspective, they really do not tell the truth or admit to the truth in those contexts. Now the big question is, to what extent did post-Soviet Russia try to change that? You will remember that in 1989, in December, the Soviet Parliament actually kind of condemned the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, the secret protocols of Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, saying that this protocol was invalid from the beginning as it violated the fundamental norms of international law. At the time, the Baltic deputies in the Soviet Parliament at that time also played a role in creating a momentum for this declaration. But neither the Soviet Union nor post-Soviet Russia made a clear and obvious link from saying A to saying B. They did not say that because, you know, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact prepared the ground, then it follows from this that what we did in 1939, especially in June 1940, this is illegal as well, and therefore our presence in the Baltic states was illegal. So this kind of admission never happened. Rather, with time, the denial of it became more obvious, more virulent. Of course, there were consequences from this qualification. And by the way, returning to once more to your previous question, whether there are any differences, I think one of the big practical differences for Moscow was that Estonia and Latvia used the state continuity argument for not basically making citizenship something automatic, something you could ask for, but only through naturalization. Lithuania chose a slightly different way there, although maintaining state identity. Lithuania did not get the problem of people who didn't get an obvious citizenship. So Lithuania gave an option to choose for Lithuanian citizenship without really checking without how good was the person's Lithuanian language skills or something. And since the 90s, there was this basically Moscow's accusations that the Estonia and Latvia, they're kind of using this state continuity for discriminating against Russian speakers who settled to those territories, to those countries during the Soviet period. Some people have argued that Lithuania's treaty with Yeltsin's Russia in 1990 kind of includes a reference to Lithuania state continuity, that Yeltsin's Russia kind of acknowledged that theory, that argument. But later on, they still also retracted it. And when the Baltic states, for example, Lithuania was the most active talking about compensation claims, then sometimes Moscow would answer, you know, do you want to return to us Vilnius or what? So, you know, they were not really ready to discuss the consequences of Soviet repressions in the Baltic states. So I would say, yes, it's an unsolved issue in the sense that of course you would have certain individuals among Russian intelligentsia. I'm thinking, for example, about 20th century history by history professor Andrei Zubov, who basically writes that the Soviet Union occupied and annexed the Baltic states illegally. But on the state level, these kind of statements have not been made, really.
In addition to the Baltic states and Russia, there exists one more collective entity in your book. It's the so-called Free World. How would you describe the Western position on the occupation and annexation of the Baltic states during the period you analyze in your book?
I think some people, of course, would use the concept of free world to some extent ironically, because it's a political concept, right? And it gives this image that, you know, certain actors in history are good, and of course, you know, if you're not part of the free world, then you are somehow part of the non-free world, and that cannot be so good. But I think it's an interesting story because just as in NATO, you can see the leadership of the United States. So the United States really is the kind of leading country in this non-recognition policy, and in some ways the others really follow the European powers. One practical question was concerned the Baltic embassies. And it concerned the question, what happens to those embassies when people who are sort of representing as diplomats this state continuity, the non-recognition of the Soviet annexation, when those people die. So, for example, Estonia had in Madrid a quite famous diplomat from pre-World War II era, Karel Robert Pusta. So he exercised the ambassadorial functions there until he died in 1963. And was very active, also covered Paris from Madrid, doing regular trips to Paris. But now it becomes interesting what happens after those people die. You know, are they replaced or not? In some contexts, it did not even emerge because, for example, Estonia had a diplomat in New York, in the Consulate General, Ernst Jaakson, who basically went on from 1940 to 1991 and then handed over his functions. So he continued to live throughout all this period and fulfill those functions. And how the Americans supported it was that they gave money from the previous Baltic funds that had that were not handed over to the Soviets, and they said that let the Baltic states use those funds with their embassies. But you don't have this kind of continuous function of embassies in all Western states. So, for example, after the Estonian ambassador in London, August Torma, dies, I think in the 70s, he's not really replaced with another diplomat in the same way. So you have some of this symbolism regarding the recognition of state continuity is really also what happens after 91, after restoration of those states. So, for example, in Berlin, they would restore Estonia's embassy building from before World War II as again, a symbol for that. But obviously this building, first of all, Berlin is divided during the Cold War. West Berlin has a different story, different status. The capital city of the Federal Republic of Germany is in Bonn during that time. So obviously it cannot function as an embassy building during Cold War, but it is then restored to that function after 91.
The English version of your book was published in 2003. I want to ask the question about what processes, essential documents of international law, academical texts have appeared during the period since 2003 till now, which provide new insights, new tools for interpreting and justifying the continuity of statehood in cases of illegal annexation and long-term occupations. Do you see such, I don't know, crucial, important changes in that period?
Well, the academic discourse, of course, always continues. So one of the important monographs that I referred to in my book was by James Crawford, The Creation of States in International Law, originally published 1979. So in 2005, he would publish the second edition of the same book. But usually, in this kind of works, the fundamentals are not changed. There will be amendments in terms of narrative. Something new happens, new stories, come in addition. But I think the main argument remains intact. It is in place. So the question is, does the time confirm this main argument, or does the time sort of work against the main argument? Now, one question that we could ask is that writing about these things essentially in 2002, 2003, was it a more optimistic time than what we have now? Because you cannot deny that, for example, Russia's actions against Ukraine, we thought these kind of things would not happen anymore because they are prohibited in the international law. So this kind of break of taboo that Russia executed and is executing in Ukraine is also against, those very foundations of international law. There has been the illegal annexation of Crimea already in 2014. And these are all, new stories. You have also the question of, under President Trump in the United States, the recognition of Golan Heights as part of Israel and of Western Sahara as part of Morocco, which, are controversial from the perspective of non-recognition of territories that have not been initially legally acquired or through occupation. But so on some level, we can see from those further events that it has been a very ambitious thing in international law to say that, look, if something is acquired illegally, there will not be a recognition. Even if it takes 40, 50 years, it will not be recognized. And then you will have cases like the Baltic States. They manage to liquidate the illegal situation even after almost 50 years. And but of course, you have still illegal situations in international relations that are unresolved, that remain unresolved after decades of illegality, and the pressure to do something about them, to somehow basically recognize that. You used the word prescription before, to say that, well, now it is part of Morocco, or now it is part of Israel, or I don't know, other situations. This pressure will be there, and in some ways, one difference between now and 2003 is that in some aspects the world has become harsher. There is less unity between great powers. There is more conflict between great powers. Maybe the West, that was kind of guaranteeing at least the Western version of international law, is relatively speaking weaker today than it was in 2003, which was still, many people spoke about the unipolar order and how the Americans are dictating things to other nations. Now it is very well possible that international, that Russia, to the extent it manages to carry out certain annexations, at least de facto, it might have its own sort of sphere of influence, really. And as long as it can do militarily in its near abroad or approximate neighborhood, it will maybe to some extent not even care anymore whether the Western powers will recognize or not recognize that. So in that sense, there is less unity of the application of international law currently in the world, and more conflict. The rise of China as well. China in 2002, 2003 was not as powerful actor yet as it is now, almost on par with the United States.
Dear Professor, thank you for your answers and for your valuable insights. As we have discussed just a very little part of the context of the book, so I encourage our viewers to go to the bookstores or to the libraries to find the book, to read it, and to think a little bit more. Thank you once again, and good luck.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.